Hello and welcome to the vlog, a vlog in which, in a rare surprise, I'm actually going boating. Of course, today's boats generally are powered by diesel engines, but in the heyday of the canals, when they were first being dug in the 1700s and 1800s, they barely invented the engine and they went about pulling the barges with horsepower, real horsepower, and that's what I'm going to see in action today. This is Welshpool in Wales, and the canal is the Montgomery, known as the Monty. It's much like every other canal, a bit shallow maybe, and runs through the town from north to south, but there's not much activity here, because this 12-mile stretch is isolated from the rest of the canal network, awaiting more restoration. Next to the town museum is a lock, and being pulled into it by hand as I arrived was a trip boat called Countess.
Countess is styled on the old Victorian packet boats, the passenger boats, plying their trade up and down this particular canal in the mid-1800s were the passenger flyboats. And the flyboats themselves were like the white van of the day. They would pick up anything and take it as far as you wanted it, and they worked 24/7. So all around the clock these flyboats were going up and down the Monty. They were 70 feet long. They were operated with two horses, one behind the other, with a postilion on the front horse, so a rider on the front horse. And the passenger ones, when they were up to full speed, they were doing 9 miles an hour.
But I wasn't here so much for the boat as this guy. This is Cracker, the boat horse, who'd been waiting in the shade until his handler was ready to bring him to the lock, where he'd be harnessed to the boat.
So yeah, today's a very relaxed day.
The crew sorted Cracker's harness and headgear. But all the horse cared about was where the decent grass was, a chance for a quick final snack before we set off down the towpath. Distracted by food, Cracker's tail was given a brush. Then the harness was put on. It's specially designed to spread the load and help make pulling the boat easier for Cracker. The boat got nudged forwards by the humans, then Cracker took up the strain. As Countess exited the lock, a handful of passengers aboard, a delightful trip awaited them in a style from years gone past.
Right the way through to Newtown.
It might look like hard work, but this really was easy for the horse. He could pull many more tons without much effort, and the pace was gentle. You might wonder why the boat isn't simply pulled into the bank. Well, there is steering being operated from the back, with a large rudder counteracting any sideways pull. And the tow rope's not connected right at the front, but somewhat back, which helps to give a more forwards pull. A good thing there's steering too, as while the old canal went straight ahead here, the restored section turns sharp right. Momentum kept the boat moving while the helmswoman held the tiller over. There was a little bit of pole pushing to straighten under the road bridge. And then we were out and I jumped aboard to get the trip from the passenger's perspective. This truly is the most civilised way to travel you could possibly imagine. We approached a lock. For Cracker, this meant being unhitched and, crucially, a chance to nibble at the grass again, as well as having a bit of a break. The manoeuvring of the boat through the lock would be done by hand. While the lock was emptied of water, I took the chance to find out a bit more about our equine power plant.
He's technically classed as a pony, but he's what we call a Shropshire half leg. So he's only short in stature, but stocky, full of leg, got the feather of a Welsh cob, but a bit of a mixture, but perfectly suited to what we're putting him to. His temperament is suitably calm and relaxed, 99.9% of the time. But as with all horses, you can't fully guarantee that 100% of the time. He's perfectly sized to go under all the canal bridges, perfectly strong enough to pull our little boat, which is just 5.5 tons plus passengers. However, horses of this size are more than capable of pulling boats double that. It's quite a bit to get it underway. We always give him a bit of assistance, pulling on the tow line with him to get the boat moving. But once we're moving, it's just a gentle walk really for him. He thrives on a nice open pasture, nuts in the morning, a little bit of TLC, and yeah, he gets a lot of love and affection, does this one? Don't you, mate?
With the lock empty, Countess could be pulled in and the lock refilled to raise the boat to the next level. Meanwhile, Cracker was fully occupied being a horse lawnmower. Locks on the Monty are unusual in that they have a horizontal underwater paddle feeding a ground culvert. They're now deemed so dangerous because of the whirlpool this generates when in use that the paddle gear's been locked closed, leaving only a gate paddle to operate the lock. Like many canals, the Monty is only partially restored, and its survival at all is, as is so often, down to the efforts of enthusiasts.
It fell into disrepair, and in 1969 they were going to put a bypass around the town of Welshpool, and somebody said, please don't put it down the line of the old canal because we wish to restore it. And that's when the volunteers came out with their picks and their shovels and their wheelbarrows, and they basically started with a dried up ditch and restored the canal.
To connect the 12-mile stretch we were on back to the section that joins the Llangollen is going to take a lot of money and some interesting engineering.
The biggest obstacles were 4 road intersections where when the roads were put in they literally flattened the canal bridges, which left maybe about 18 inches of height to get under. So now we've got to come up with a solution which is quite complex and very expensive, because they're not going to move the roads for us, so we've got to put extra locks in either side the roads into a sunken pound and then bring them up again the other side.
With only 100 yards or so to the next lock, it fell to human endeavour to haul the boat along, where again a deluge of water awaited. In the shade, Cracker had a drink and some of his favourite biscuits. Then we were off again.
Another bridge.
Oh no, that's done. We got it done.
A wonderful moment came when some horses heard Cracker coming and, whinnying, were answered by him with a harumph, causing them all to rush over and stare in awe at the boat horse. And we had a lucky glimpse of a herd of deer on the bank, although they scarpered when they heard us. If you fancy having this most magical of rides yourself, Cracker does regular boat trips on the other section of the Monty for individuals, corporate events, parties and the like. I've left a link to his website in the video description below. For now, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.